Yuji approaches Ren, smiling at him. In response, Ren blushed while expressing his shock that she's interested in gossips. Yuji immediately denies his accusation and explains that she just wants to ask about their plan last time, which got interrupted. Yuji flustered, thinking that it may look like she's asking Ren out. Ren looks gently at her, remembering how Miss Su ruined their walk together last time. He encourages himself to do the explanation as of today. He stands up and bravely asks Yuji if she's available tonight. The evening arrived, and in a place full of eateries, Yuji and Ren can be seen sitting in front of each other. With chopsticks in her hand, Yuji mesmerizes Ren's sight. She finally asks about the limousine that picked up Ren, and asks him if anything bad happened. Ren quickly shakes his head as he denies it, and tells her that he took a part-time job as a teacher, so it was his client's car. Yuji's hand trembles. Right after, she asks him if the cute girl she saw, which is Z, is his student, and Ren nods firmly in agreement. With a sad expression, Yuji talks about the lovely face of his student. Her sudden statement made Ren perplexed, but she says it's nothing, and changed the topic by asking the reason why Miss Su called him in her office. Ren recalled the grueling body locks he experienced, as he lied that she just scolded him to not listen to his friend's babbles. Silence envelops the place after his story. When only the rustles of trees can be heard, and the smoke's coming from the hot noodles, Yuji suddenly asks Ren if it was also a joke, when MANHWA and Jaein told her that he likes her. Ren tries to calm himself, as to not show the embarrassment as he recalls what happened that day. In a luxurious venue, MANHWA and Jaein is forcing Ren to confess his love to Yuji. Ren tries his best to escape from Jaein's shoulder lock, while he denies their assumptions that something's going on between him and her, but Jaein assures him that something will really happen when their plan works. All of a sudden, MANHWA tells him to stop, because he already spotted Yuji walking towards them. He carefully peeks at her figure to hide his presence, and in the right timing, he surprised her to stop her tracks. He fiddles his glasses, while he gives Yuji a love letter from Ren, and announces that Ren has liked her for a very long time, and he wants to be her boyfriend. Yuji was astonished as she blushes from looking in the love letter on MANHWA's hand. She then receives the letter and pronounces Ren's name out of surprise, but all of a sudden, Jaein pushes Ren towards Yuji to let them talk to each other. This made Yuji more surprised, as she unconsciously drops the letter from her hand. Jaein and MANHWA left the two on their own, now that they have done their heroic mission. As Yuji and Ren talks to each other while being flustered, the letter slowly drops to the ground, along with pink petals. The smokes from their hot noodles doesn't interrupt the two, while awkwardness comes to them. Ren avoids eye contact when he says that his friends were really just kidding that time. Meanwhile, Yuji just kind of expected it, even though disappointment can be seen in her face upon hearing his answer. After that, she asks Ren if he got something more to say to her, but Ren is confused because he has no idea what is she talking about. Embarrassed, Yuji plays with her hair and asks in his feelings, disregarding the jokes his friends apparently made. Ren's eyes enlarge because of surprise, but before he can answer her, Yuji giggles and tells him that she's just teasing him. She also assumes that his nervousness came from being troubled by weird people, but Ren is just confused because he doesn't know any weird people who troubles him. However, as they're having an awkward yet happy conversation, Rue observes them from a high place, unbeknownst to Ren. Rue watches the two leave the place while walking side by side to each other. The beautiful smile of Yuji irritates him, as he cursed upon the nerve of Ren to walk with another woman beside his fiancée, Z. Ren reaches his stop, so he bids his goodbye to Yuji. In response, Yuji shows him her mesmerizing smile as she also waves her goodbye. She hums while walking away happily, and Ren just stares at her, comparing her gentle side to Z's little devil personality. All of a sudden, he heard a voice coming from above. He looks at the direction of the voice, wondering who he is, but when he did, he sees a furious Rui descending from the sky. His eyes widen. With his arms crossed, Rui asks Ren if the girl he was together, Yuji, knows if he's currently engaged. At the same time, when Rui is close to landing in the ground, he threatens Ren that he will teach him a lesson for what he just committed. Ren denies his accusation and emphasizes that he and Z are not really in a kind of romantic relationship. However, Rui didn't listen to his explanation. Right after he landed, he dashes quickly towards Ren, wounding his cheeks in result. With only using his thumb, Rui attacked Ren, while telling him not to dare call Z by her name. Ren was surprised at the quickness of Rui's attack. He asks him if that is the magic art of the dragon tribe, but in that moment, Rui already moved to Ren's blind spot. Rui immediately hits Ren's face with his elbow, and Ren failed to dodge it. He steps back from the strong impact of the attack, and in answer to his question, Rue tells him that he doesn't need any art to deal with a weakling. He smiles sinisterly as he raises his right foot. Immediately after he sees that, Ren anticipates Rue's attack. Rue then jumps towards him and released a powerful kick that hit Ren's forearm. Ren receives the strong power that came with Rue's attack, and just right after that, he was blown away in a distance. Rue is not satisfied as he goes into a leap position and jumps again towards Ren. He then slams him to the ground by punching his stomach. Ren's eyes widened in pain as he thought about how quick Rue was, making it difficult for him to avoid any of his attacks. Ren lies on the ground, unable to fight back and unhear Rue's insult. Rue starts to grab Ren's clothes, after emphasizing that martial art is all it takes for him to defeat his weak battle prowess. Ren cursed his own weakness, but the situation is not already at his favor now that Rue is pulling him up in the air, while pointing out the inferiority of humans to dragons like himself. Despite how hopeless this battle for him is becoming, Ren is still trying to think of something to survive, until he finally thought of the teachings he learned from Z. He then decided to give it a shot, and after struggling, he managed to focus the energy in his body into his left hand. All of a sudden, he tries to punch Rue. However, he is not the slightest threatened, because he is so sure that it'll be nothing but a scratch. Ren's fist goes straight into his face, and that's when he suddenly noticed the energy within it. He immediately releases Ren from his grip, and because of that, he successfully dodged Ren's punch, which was embedded with his energy power. He stares at the attack that almost succeeded in damaging him, and immediately backs away to maintain the distance. Ren pants, while he thinks that it was too close to finally landing a hit. Rue asks him how did he manage to do that, and he tells him that it was all because of Z, while provoking him if he's afraid to get surpassed by him someday. In the next moment, Rue is already at his back, telling him not to get carried away, because he had just reached only the first level. Afterwards, he flies away, leaving Ren with discouragement. The next day in the mansion of the Dragon King, Hongyu can be seen worried about Ren, who is covered with wounds on his face, by what he says, the effects of accidentally falling. Z calls him a fool and stupid for suddenly getting into a dumb accident. In result, Hongyu scolded her while Ren blames her for what happened. The topic suddenly changes when Hongyu invites Ren to join them in their trip to the Greenstone Mountain. After he thought that the location is the famous scenery spot, he realizes that it's strange because Z is not protesting. Embarrassed, Z turns her face the other way, while denying that she was the one who invited him, even though no one's accusing her of it. In the beautiful scenery in the famous Greenstone Mountain, Ren joins the Zhao family in their sightseeing. While walking, he got insulted by Z as a country bumpkin, after he says that it is his first time riding in that place. Irritated, Ren tells her that she can stay in home if she didn't like him going with them. The two click their tongue after they reach the entrance of the Greenstone Hotel. All of a sudden, a guy in a tracksuit spies Ren, all thinking that his smile will be gone after he made his plan a success. Meanwhile, Ren screams from amazement when he and the others entered the hotel. Sparks can be seen in his eyes while he looks around the luxurious place from the pillars, chandeliers, and the indoor fountain. However, when he looked at his side, the figures of Zhao, Hongyu, and even Z cannot be seen anymore. He then decided to wait for them in his room, and when he reached the elevator, he wonders who will be his roommate. He gulped while looking at the card in his hand as he imagines a seductive Z in a bath outfit showing him different attractive poses. Ren once again gulps when that thought entered his mind. He goes out from the elevator and reaches the door. As he swipes the card to enter the room, he sees a shadow resembling Z, who just got out of the shower. Ren shows his determination and opens the room, but what entered his eyes is the figure of Zhao, who just got out of the bath, asking him to take a shower too. Sobbing, his back slides from the wall due to the disappointment. Outside the hotel, where trees and an owl reside in the place, Z is complaining about the fact that her parents made her climb the mountain along with Ren. With a flustered face, Z tells him to stay away from her, so Ren maintains his distance while thinking about his promise to Hongyu, which is to protect Z. All of a sudden, a snake shows up, and Z screams from the terrifying sight of it. She accidentally stumbles upon a rock and slowly falls off to the ground, but Ren arrives in her aid to save her in the nick of time. She looks above to see Ren's face, while he assures her that the snake she saw was not toxic at all. After getting too close at each other, Z walks away out of embarrassment. Z then denies that she was scared and tells him that it was just disgusting. Ren just agrees to what she said and changed the situation by saying that he was the one who's afraid and not her. After that, he sticks close to Z while inviting her to walk together. He immediately grabs her wrist and leads the way for her. As the owl sleeps the next moment, the two finally reach the top of the mountain. It was already dusk and there's little to no people in there. Z's expression got serious all of a sudden, but it turns out that she just changed gears and was overexcited as she happily points out various tourist spots in the area for them to check out one by one. Now she is the one holding Ren's hand while being his tour guide, but Ren feels that she's suspicious and assumes that there's a trap waiting for him. They reach the stone tablet, and after Ren read the contents, Z happily teaches her about Master Zhang, a famous Taoist who made it. She then points out a part that describes the way to command the water. Ren didn't waste time and reads it immediately, until he finally understands. Due to her overdose of excitement, Z urges him to try the spirit concentration scroll immediately. He then closes his eyes and focuses on the concentration, but a large man playing with his phone is on his way to bump them. And right after that, Ren's concentration loses when the man suddenly hits him, which leads to the man's phone being broken. However, the big man blames him for the accident, as he cracks his knuckles while telling him to pay for it. Without the slightest feeling of being intimidated, Ren asks the big man what does he wants, which the man answered immediately, that he wants money, and then an apology from Ren, by kneeling down and kowtowing. Z steps up, angered because of his unfair conditions. However, her foot suddenly trips into a piece of rock again, and she immediately sits, while trembling in pain. The man then approaches her, while informing her not to bother and just move aside. Ren immediately runs to guard Z from the big man. He slaps the man's hand away from Z, yelling at him to stay away from her. The man smiles, enraged by Ren's heroic actions. Ren bravely faces him, but Z warns him. When he found out that the man is a cultivator, she pulls Ren's clothes, while telling him that he is no match for a second-level cultivator opponent. However, Ren just gently pats her hand and smiles at her as to not make her worry. Z is speechless, and thus unable to stop him. While all of these is happening, Ru is happily observing the turn of events in an inconspicuous place. He smiles upon revealing that the scroll he gave to Ren is incomplete, thus, he expects the outcome to be his defeat and his ultimate humiliation in front of Z. In addition, earlier from this, he called the man and given his task to look for the location of their target, which is Ren. After that, he smiles maniacally as he tells him to teach Ren a lesson without hurting Z. With a pile of cash prepared, he reminds him to do whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't kill him. Back to the present, the big man mocks Ren by giving him a head start to their fight, but Ren refuses as he immediately runs away, while provoking him to start his chase. The ground cracks up when the man prepares his offensive stance. In the next moment, he jumps towards Ren with an attempt to smash him. The rocks turn into debris when he hits it, instead of Ren, who successfully evaded. He then admits Ren's quickness, but Ren is also acknowledging the strength of the man, along with their predicament. The smoke hides the man's big figure, but Ren senses that he is already on his way to attack. The man charges at Ren. He quickly runs away and dodged it, but the pavilion where he was earlier was destroyed in result. Just as he thought that the man perished after getting crashed by the structures, he sees him getting out alive instead. The man yells, irritated of Ren's continuous dodging. He provokes the man in response, forcing him to attempt to catch him right away, but the man was unsuccessful. He can't contain his rage anymore as he attempts to punch him with his big arm, but Ren still manages to evade. When the man temporarily stops, it gave Ren the opportunity to think of a plan. All of a sudden, he runs away again, while telling him to chase him once more. His weird running direction that seems to run in circles around the man perplexed him, but his muscle head just sees it as a mere joke. However, the smoke from dust and soil started to form up with all of the running that Ren makes. It deteriorates the man's vision, not enabling him to tell the right direction. Ren yells, challenging him to do his grand clash. The man didn't hesitate for a second and immediately prepares himself. Right after that, he already charges his way into Ren. Ren's eyes illuminate blue lights all of a sudden, and he surprisingly stops running to greet the man. He changed his stance, and in the next moment, he kicks his foot, spins his body, and uses his palm embedded with energy to land a powerful hit into the opponent. The force of his attack eventually resulted to the man bumping into a hard wall, which signals his victory. Ru's hand slaps his face as he watches the scene that didn't meet his expectations. He sees Ren celebrating his victory with Z, while he angrily swears to stop him in his way to mastering the spirit concentration scroll. Meanwhile, after the incident, Z continuously punches Ren's back to put her down now that she is being carried by him. Ren refuses her plead, saying that she still already has her foot injured. Z suddenly blushes. Afterwards, Ren expresses his thanks, after remembering that she tried to stood up for him earlier. Embarrassed, Z tells him that it is because he is too weak. She then slips her tongue after saying that she wasted her time taking him to the Greenstone Mountain. Because of that, Ren asks her if she's the one who proposed the trip and planned to invite him. In the mountain tracks, Z's screams, which forces Ren to forget the thing she said, reverberate. The sunset dyed the world in orange as Ren is running laps, while Yuji silently watches him. Ren pants from the exhaustion, but admiration can be seen from Yuji as she observes Ren from a distance while holding the rusty bars. In the city, Ren is walking in the sidewalk while reading the scroll. All of a sudden, a tall guy blocks his way. He then confirms Ren's identity by asking him his name out of the blue. Ren is confused as of what's happening, but he says yes. The guy in a basketball jersey smiles at him, saying that he's been famous lately. Afterwards, he then mentions the thing with Miss Sue, where she called him in her office. Troubled that he meets another Miss Sue fan, Ren tells him that it was just because he's not listening in her class. The aura around the guy changes when he expresses his jealousy to Ren. Without anything important to talk with him, Ren tries to leave. However, the guy placed his hand on his shoulder to stop him. He looks down at Ren, pointing out his rudeness to an upperclassman such as himself. All of a sudden, Yuji's voice called out the guy by his name, Zuji. She runs quickly towards the two, and pants from exhaustion after reaching them. Ren and Zuji were perplexed by her sudden interruption. Yuji asks Yuji who she is, and what's her relationship with Ren. After hesitating, Yuji then answers him that she's Ren's classmate. All of a sudden, Ren grabs her wrist and stands in front of her to get her out of Shuji's reach. Mysteriously, Yuji tells them that he recognizes Yuji. Both Yuji and Ren were confused as of why he knew about her. Afterwards, Yuji reveals that she saw her a couple of times, watching Ren runs. This revelation made Ren happy, but Yuji is embarrassed and denies it as just coincidences. Meanwhile, Zuji's thoughts clouded upon the envy he feels to Ren, who has not just Miss Sue, but also Yuji. All of a sudden, he approaches Yuji and puts his face near to her while touching her chin in a position to land a kiss.